All right, guys, welcome back to a new podcast episode. This is episode 3 of Book It Like It's Hot, and today we will be reviewing Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey Mcquiston. Let's move on to an introduction. But I guess before we do, I just want to make a quick spoiler warning for listeners. If you haven't read it and you want to and you don't want things to be spoiled, then tune off. Read the book before you listen to this podcast episode. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, a quick summary. Red, White, and Royal Blue is a romantic comedy novel that essentially follows the relationship between two characters, Alex Claremont Diaz, who's the first son of the United States, and Prince Henry of Wales. After a public altercation at a royal wedding, the two are forced to fake a friendship for diplomatic reasons. However, their relationship soon develops into a secret romance that threatens to upend both their political worlds for obvious reasons. As they navigate their feelings, personal struggles, and public expectations, Alex and Henry must decide whether their love is worth the risks. The novel is a mix of romance, political intrigue, humor, and celebrating queer love and self-discovery. Moving on to first impressions. For me, I will say the book length was too long. I feel like there was a lot.
Chapters were long.
The chapters were long. There was a lot of fluff. I have a fluffometer. I don't know if you guys know. You know how last episode we talk about celebrity casting. That's what Melanie does.
Mm-hmm.
I have a fluffometer, and it was like an 8 out of 10 on the fluffometer scale.
Mm-hmm.
Almost to the point where it was a DNF or do not finish for me. But we'll get into that later. I thought the chemistry and tension between Alex and Henry, though, was authentic. I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the build. And I really liked how Casey, the author, touched on political and social commentary, and they kind of touch with real world issues that actually occur within the queer community.
Yeah.
What do you think, Melanie?
I will agree that there are a lot of fluff. I feel like they tried to land a lot of jokes that did not hit. And I feel like it was like too much where they were trying to be funny and like quirky, but it really just came off cringy. I thought it was like a cutesy little like thing. I think in high school I would have loved this. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Now in my 20s, it's just a little corny. You know what I mean? But it's cutesy. You know what I mean? It's a little cutesy. What else can I say? I mean, they kind of twisted, like, so the movie, they kind of did a little different take from the movie.
Mm-hmm.
A little spoiler, I will say, because in the movie, it was like some guy that they had, that Alex like had a thing with that exposed the relationship, but in reality, well, in the book, it was the guy who was competing against his mom for the presidential campaign who ended up exposing him or whatever. And I feel like the book went into a more like darker storyline, and it talked about like sexual harassment and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, like I like how it kind of like it put a like kind of mentioned something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not this point I'm about to make is not against the book at all, but like I kind of wish they did that in the movie as well.
Yeah.
Like obviously I know this is not towards the book at all. I feel like they shouldn't have like twisted it, because it can shed a light to that kind of situation more.
Yeah.
But other than that, I feel like
she dropped her mic. Anyways, while she picks that up, I agree. It felt forced, but I also feel that they shouldn't have deviated from the story when they were creating the movie, because then it takes a different turn with the story, and it's like not the same. It doesn't hit the same.
Yeah.
So I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think that I think it could have been a little better writing. But like I said, I think this is more I feel like this book is meant more for like high schoolers. Like a young adult. I think it is a young adult book at the end of the day for a reason. And I definitely think if you are in high school and you need to pick out a book because you guys have to do that 10-minute reading thing before class or whatever, that the dear reading or something like that, I would recommend it.
Yeah.
If you are in your 20s and you're looking for some action and some high intense stuff, this is not for you.
I totally agree with that. That's
Yeah.
like, I feel like that was really well said.
Yeah.
It felt like it was a book assignment for high school. Like that's
Mhm.
just like how it felt. It
Yeah.
just didn't feel like it was for me as an adult. I'm like past that point, so
Yeah.
it wasn't appropriate.
Yeah, exactly.
Moving on to plot overview and key moments, I wanted to highlight some of the memorable scenes that I picked up. Of course, I felt like the wedding cake incident was really like the catalyst for the relationship spark between Alex and Henry. So they were at this royal wedding, and then their tension boils over, which results them in accidentally knocking over a $75,000 wedding cake.
Oh yeah.
And then it sparked like this media frenzy. And like I said earlier, I think this was truly the catalyst event for their romantic relationship. So that was probably one of the most standout scenes throughout the book.
Mm-hmm.
Then their first kiss, I thought that was great, like during the New Year's Eve party at the White House where Henry kisses Alex.
Yeah.
But that moment shifts like their dynamic from forced friendship to something deeper. But also it was like very confusing for Alex because it was like a WTF moment.
Yeah.
Because Henry just like walks off.
Yeah.
And then like Alex's bisexual awakening as he falls for Henry. He also realizes that he's bi.
Mm-hmm.
And then a significant moment of self discovery was kind of made on his part.
Mm-hmm.
So that really sparked to me as a really popular, or I don't want to say popular, but like a really big scene in the book.
Mm-hmm.
And then the leaked emails and the outing, which was done I think by Raphael, right? That was the opponent to Alex's mother during the re-election phase.
Yes.
And the private emails and messages get leaked, exposing their relationship between Alex and Henry to the world. And not only does the scandal put immense pressure on them, but also their families in public roles. So I thought that was interesting to see that come into light.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of that can relate to what exists in the world today in terms of issues within the queer community.
Yeah.
So I like how Casey kind of twisted that.
Yes.
But it also had like double meaning there.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And then kind of what stood out to me was how the public support was overwhelming those who were backlashing them.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was thinking more the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like it showed that how times are changing.
Mm-hmm.
And then Henry really stepping it up and choosing love for Alex over his duty in the royal palace. Instead of staying closeted for the sake of his tradition,
Mm-hmm.
he decides to live out openly as himself as gay with Alex. And then I thought that proved that his love is stronger than the expectations that were placed upon him otherwise.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I totally agree.
Well, I'm glad you do. I don't know if you had anything that stood out to you in terms of the book and like scenes or particular chapters.
I mean, it's been a minute. So, I think I would say the thing that brought up to me was, like you said, was the whole like exposing scene.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, and then the like just like I feel like that was actually a twist where I was just like, oh wow, and then the where the guy actually like helped him. Well, it was supposed to be like his enemy because he was the running mate, but actually like he was helping him out at the end or whatever. I thought that was nice.
Yeah.
Nice little touch. When it comes to the romance thing, it was good. It's cute. Like I said, it's cutesy. Nothing that made me like curl my feet.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
It was nothing to make me curl my feet. It was just more like, oh, you know.
Oh.
Yeah.
To quote Wendy.
Yeah. That's how I feel like that's how the romance in the book made me feel. Not the curling of the feet, but the oh, well that's cute.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how it felt.
Agreed.
Yeah. Agreed.
Child, anyway, so Moving on to character highlights. I want to briefly discuss some of the main characters. Of course, we have Alex. He's the first son of the United States. I kind of labeled him as very ambitious, but kind of a little messy. He's a little chaotic, which kind of is like the perfect opposite to Henry. Prince Henry of Wales, like I said, kind of the opposite. He's more reserved. He's like I feel like he's like a hopeless romantic kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And he's struggling with his sexuality and the royal expectations that he has, but ultimately, like I said earlier, he chooses love over duty at the end of the book. But then to point out some other characters, I would say they're more like supporting characters. June Claremont Diaz, that's Alex's protective sister. And she really helps him to navigate his feelings for Henry, kind of work through that, work through his feelings. Excuse me, I can't speak today. And then Nora, to highlight, she's Alex's best friend. She's a very I labeled her as very genius, very smart. But she was always like ready with that sarcasm.
Yeah,
she was bottom line a really loyal friend.
She was, yes, she was.
And then Henry's brother or sister, excuse me, B. She gave me more this rebellious type, but also very loving.
Yes,
who's also very supportive.
Yeah.
In terms of getting Henry to self-accept himself.
Yes.
I feel like those were the main characters. I feel like they didn't really touch too much on, Alex's mom or like Raphael, who I think was the opponent to his mom.
Yeah. I also feel I also have a different take. I feel like this book would have been a lot better if it was from a first point of view.
Oh.
I think what they should have done, because we saw a lot of Alex's side of the story.
Very true.
I wanted to also see George, right? Is it George? Right? No, Prince Henry. Sorry. I was like, huh? Yeah. I also wanted to see Henry's point of view on stuff.
Yeah.
So I feel like if they did things like first point of view, I feel like I would be more like attached to the story.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good point. Like kind of how Frida McFadden does that. I don't know if you guys have ever read work from Frida, but she will like alternate chapters on different perspectives of different characters.
Yes.
I feel like we did not really get that with this book.
Exactly. Right. Like I definitely feel like what I've noticed throughout the years is I feel like I think I get more attached to books that are more first point of view, because I feel like I'm there, like I see their point of view, I'm in the story. Whereas when it's like a second point of view, when it's like just like they're narrating what each person does,
absolutely,
you don't get as attached. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And that's my opinion.
Well, I appreciate your opinion, filet mignon. Moving on to themes and symbolism, wanted to discuss some major themes. For me, I noticed a lot of, love versus duty, as I've been saying kind of throughout the past couple minutes here. Self-acceptance and identity, politics and power, family and support systems, breaking tradition and change, especially towards the end of the book. We see a lot of that. And then this kind of identity versus in the public light, opposing that with the public light, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Or private life, excuse me. So like this idea of public versus private identity. I feel like both characters really grappled with being in the public eye because they've had to, because of their roles, but also struggle with balancing authenticity with the perception of the public. I don't know if any theme stood out to you, but I felt like that is kind of what kept replaying in my brain.
Yes.
In terms of key symbols, like I said earlier, the wedding cake, the emails and letters that Alex and Henry would send each other, I thought that was cute.
Yeah.
And then the key, Henry gives a key, I don't know if you remember that, to Alex to a private royal residence. And I felt like that was like a symbol of him trusting Alex. And it was like a space for their love, if you will.
Yeah.
That Texas Star belt buckle, representing Alex and his roots, because he's a Texan. Texan. This ain't Texas. I don't hold him. And then just like the history and legacy, which we see a lot of frequent frequent references to historical like LGBTQ figures, symbolizing like the fight for equality and love.
Mm-hmm.
Which I felt like Casey was really showing the fact that Alex and Henry, like their characters, are really part of a larger like narrative here.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed anything specifically that I didn't mention to add.
No. I feel like all of our points are
Oh my gosh, yes. I'm just covering. It's just me talking today, y'all.
I think everything. I feel like we made our point across. It's a decent book.
It's a decent book.
Not the best book, but not the worst book.
Well, now comes to our closing thoughts and ratings. I mean, I did just say, it was a decent book, but so far on the list for this year, it was, in my opinion, the worst book I've read. On a scale of 0 to 10, I gave it a 4, and I think that was being generous. I probably would have given it like 3.5 or maybe even a 3. But I was like, there was some good references to the real world, and I did like how Casey portrayed the tension and the love between Alex and Henry. But overall, I feel like the book dragged. There was a lot of fluff.
Yeah.
It was an 8 out of 10 on the fluffometer for me. And it just didn't excite me as much as the movie did, quite frankly.
Yes.
I don't know what your thoughts were on that, but that's just how I felt.
Yeah, I think I gave this book like a 6 or a 7.
Okay.
I feel like it takes a lot for me to like really hate a book, but I didn't hate it. It's okay. I think if I was reading this in high school, I would have been loving it. Like, oh my god, this is the best. But
Right.
So, but for now, I give it like I'll give it a 6.5. I'll meet it in the middle.
Okay.
I'll meet it in the middle.
And to your point, I feel as if I read this book at the wrong time in my life.
Yep.
I feel like if I were to read this in high school, it probably would have been higher because I feel like it would have been more appropriate for me.
Yes.
Totally get that. Some hopes and expectations that I do hope, because I heard allegedly they're making a sequel.
Oh, really?
I don't know how true that is. I have to check my sources, but that was the word on the street that they're making another movie. I don't know if that's gonna accompany a book as well, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
Moving on to our final section, celebrity casting. This is something that Melanie usually does, but I'll leave this up to you, Queen, because I feel like it's hard for me. I don't know who I would have casted for this movie.
I actually just used the characters that they used in the movie.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. But for this one, I didn't stress myself over this one. I just pictured the same characters. And it worked out good.
It did work out. When I watched the movie, I thought they were perfectly casted. Although, I don't know if you've seen how Nicholas Guillotine, whatever his last name is, Guillotine, Galagalugla.
Yeah.
I don't know. He is probably looking a certain way because he has to do this movie that he's doing now, but he looks so different.
Yeah, he really does.
I was like, this is not my Prince Henry of Wales.
Yeah. Definitely not.
Anyways, I think we'll just leave it there. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to episode 3 of Book It Like It's Hot. Can't wait to show you what we have in store for episode 4. We got a really good book coming. Can't wait. But I don't want to spill the beans. But until next time, thank you guys for listening, and we appreciate all your love and support. And we'll see you in the next episode. Take care now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.